Hey, hi, it's Simon. Just kidding.
Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and today I'm back with one of my favourite videos to make in general, but this feels extra special because, as you'll have seen, there's a special guest for this video, or I've got a special guest that I'm inserting into this video, which is the wonderful Nathan's Nook, as I have been planning and picking off my shelves and just having the best time working out what my autumn reads are based on a monologue that he has made for me that you're going to see shortly. If you don't follow Nathan, you really must. Every season he does a brilliant monologue and they have inspired me in the past, and yeah, I just said to him, would you please do me a special one for autumn, my favourite season of them all, no pressure, and he very kindly obliged. And honestly, it has made me think like very differently about what I might want to read, and yeah, I'm just mega chuffed with it. So anyway, I shall hand over to him so that he can give you that monologue, and then you'll be able to see what I've come up with. And there are so many books I'm really keen to read that he has inspired me to reach for that I might not have otherwise. So right, over to Nathan.
It's your boy Nate. I read books because reading is sexy, and if you're not reading, you're not sexy. And Simon, he's the one to tell you. I've been held hostage to give you the monologue for fall. Fall is upon us, and fall is wonderful. I love fall. It's cozy time reading, it's layers, it's the leaves, it's the changing of the seasons, changing of the times. Here to give you a little mood, a little jest into fall. Here we go. Nora Ephron banter, lattes and late afternoon glow, sweet smells of maple leaves and cider and rich library oak. Who's that chap with the brawny beard, lumberjack plaid, and a warmth to match the changing of seasons? Reruns of Gilmore Girls. I should wear burgundy more often. Loitering in the bookshops, look smart. I smell the dust of ancient things, tethered to earth by a few simple objects. That tattered copy of, what's its name over there? That one love from long ago. That tchotchke from 3 summers then. A good one. The times constantly remind me of how old I am. And I'm not old. I've just had a few good experiences to make time move much too quickly. Even the crisp leaves rattle off like golden currency no one uses anymore. That's fall for you. That's the feel. And Simon, take it away.
Huge thanks to Nathan. And what I would love is, if some of you want to, is for you to go back and pause the different parts of that monologue and see if there's any words, phrases, things that appeal to you, and see if they match what appealed to me. Now, for some of you, you'll be very surprised that
who's that chap with the brawny beard, lumberjack plaid?
The first thing that rang out to me, and for some reason, when I thought of lumberjacks, I thought of bears. Yes, bears. Okay, those bears too. And so I went through my shelves, and shock horror to no one, I have loads of books on my shelves with bears on the cover. I should say that a lot of my friends' kids call me Uncle Sugar Bear, and I even have my bear tattoo because of that. Anyway, the first book that I thought of when I went down the bear route in my mind, the animal one, was this, which is Beartooth. It's even got bear in the title, by Callan. In fact, quite a few of them have, by Callan Wink. And this is a book that was recommended to me by quite a few of my patrons as being a really gripping, fantastic novel. And when I looked it up and found out that it was about, well, it's in the Montana backcountry of 2 brothers who run a sawmill and do a little poaching on the side. And I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. But the raves that this was getting from some of my patrons, I was like, you know what, I need to give it a whirl, and so I'm definitely going to be heading to this. Another book, which is funny enough just called Bear, is one of my definite reads for the autumn, and it's Bear by Marian Engel, and I've had this on my shelf for ages. And what was lovely about the monologue from Nathan was it did make me think of these different categories and then head to my shelves and have a good look around at what I could reach. I'm sure there'll be many more that if I went through each shelf individually, which is something I'm possibly thinking of doing maybe at some point this year, I would find. But this also sprang to mind. Now, this is about a woman who I believe falls head over heels in love with a bear. We've all been there, let's not lie. And so yeah, we follow her journey, and this is one that I really want to read for 2 reasons, because there's another theme that is coming up in a bit that this really fits with. Other potentials are Come Western Sea by Maxim Loskutoff. These are all short stories. I mean, bare perfection cover-wise, isn't it? I love that yellow too. That's kind of giving the leaves as they're turning in autumn. I can't remember what this is about or if there are that many bears in it or when I heard about it, but I know I bought it in America secondhand for $12. Again, can't remember where, but I feel like maybe New York. So yeah, this has been languishing on my import shelves, as I call them.
Which are books that I've either bought in other countries or have had imported from Canada, America, Australia, etc.
I've had it for ages, want to get to it, so that's a good one. Another import is Upright Beasts by Lincoln Mitchell. Again, another short story collection that I feel like people were really raving about for quite a while. And so I picked up and really need to just get on and read. And that's something that I've tried to do a lot with this selection of books, is with each of the themes, not just pick the latest books or more recent books, try and go for things that I've had lingering a little while. And this is the case for the penultimate Berry book, although there could be many, many more on my shelves, as I've said. In the House Upon the Dirt, Between the Lake and the Woods by Matt Bell. And that's giving lumberjack, that sort of woody lakeland wilderness. I've heard this is really bonkers. I remember Jen talking about this loads years ago, which is why I ended up getting a copy of it. But have I read it? No, I haven't. I think it might even be a bit like Otherly, which could be very good with spooky season ahead, but we'll head to more of that. But speaking of seasons, it's definitely going to be bear season for me this autumn. And so Bear Season by Gemma Faircloth is another book that may well end up in the mix. Loving that hot pink. And I believe this is about a lecturer who goes missing in the woods and people think may have been eaten or killed by a bear. And then something of hers goes out live and all sorts of weird stuff linking to her and yeah, going missing and yeah. When I say yeah a lot, it means I'm not quite sure what goes on in this, but the title made me buy this when I was in House of Books and Friends in Manchester. Now, the other thing that lumberjack plaid made me think of, where do bears tend to live? Let's not say what else they do in them, but the woods. And so I wanted to read some wood-based books. And one such book is one that I've been meaning to get to since, I think, did it come out earlier this year or the end of last year? Either way, The God of the Woods by Liz Moore is one I've been meaning to get to for ages. I read Long Bright River earlier this year and absolutely loved it. And I hear this is about a child who goes missing in the woods on a camp, and it's the second time this has happened, and it's the same family and links to the family that own it. That all to me sounds super duper brill. So yeah, very much looking forward to heading to that one. Two more woodish books that I'm definitely keen to get to are Death in Our Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh. I can't believe I've not read this one yet. I've been meaning to for ages. I believe this is about a woman who finds a note in the woods, or is it a body in the woods? Yeah, a note that's been handwritten and carefully pinned to the ground with stones. And I think it's something that alludes to a murder happening, but then it becomes an obsession. And yeah, I don't want to know too much. I just know that I really, really want to read it and have not read some Ottessa Moshfegh for a while, actually, which links to something else we'll talk about shortly. Then we have The Story of the Forest by Linda Grant. And this is one that I definitely want to get to anyway this autumn, regardless. The fact that the title has forest rather than woods, let's not get caught up over that. Are they the same thing? I feel like a forest and a wood are the same thing, or is a wood a bit smaller? Anyway, this is a historical novel set in, I want to say 1913, and a young girl goes into the woods looking for mushrooms, and instead she encounters a gang of unruly, charismatic Bolsheviks. And I love Linda Grant's writing. She's an author that I haven't read for a while, very much like Ottessa Moshfegh. This is one that I want to read for another little project that I'm filming that I'm not going to tell anyone about because I don't want anyone else to do it first. But I'm very, very much looking forward to getting to that. And then I instantly thought of this cover when I was thinking about woods. And this is No One Is Here Except All of Us by Ramona Ausubel, who I have wanted to read for ages. I have quite a few of her books on the shelves. Lovely Jen, aforementioned Jen, sent me this years ago and raved about it.
And I feel like this is another case of a young girl ending up in the woods and discovering, a group of... Anyway, I think it's that. Is it that? No, that's not what it's about at all.
Anyway, it's got woods on the cover, and I think it's got woods in it. we'll see. If any of you know what this is about, and if I'm on completely the wrong path without any spoilers, please let me know. But this appealed to me. Books with woodish stuff going on is something that I want to head to. Now, the next phrase from Nathan that really rang out to me was...
I smell the dust of ancient things.
Weirdly, the first thing I thought about with this was vampires. I don't know, ancient dusk, vampires turning to dust, spooky season, it all seemed to work for me. And so the first of the vampire books that I've been meaning to read for ages, I got a proof of this last year. I absolutely loved this author's previous book. I'm really wanted to get to this, and the paperback's coming out soon, so I feel really naughty, but I will read it this autumn, is Old Soul by Susan Barker. It's a vampire tale. That's all I know. I don't need to know more. I don't want to know more. I just want to get to it this autumn. Then we have Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. I want to read much more historical fiction, and I think historical fiction really suits autumn and winter. But also this is set in the Peak District, which is where I am from. I think I'm gonna absolutely love this. Very excited to read it. And a book that I was bought by Chris for Christmas that I have not got to, or was it for my birthday? Either or, was The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. And this also appeals to another ancient dust element for me, and that is dusty old houses with
Rich library oak.
Yes, I don't know if this has got a library in it or not, but that's what it's giving me. So a vampire, a dusty old house. I mean, the cover suggests dusty old house, doesn't it? And yeah, I think this is going to be just my cup of tea. So we have that.
Oh, hang on. I'm rearranging my books for reasons that will become apparent.
Keeping in the theme of ancient, dusty, crumbly old places, a book that I said I was going to read last autumn but didn't get around to was I Died at Fallow Hall by Bonnie Burke Patel. This is a crime novel set in, I think, a house on an estate of a really old hall, and the gardener is, well, gardening and finds some bones, and that's giving me crumbling, which is sort of ancient dust and bone dust. Let's not dwell on that. This is one that I do really want to get to this autumn, especially as I know Bonnie has a new novel out, and I feel like she could be an author that I just want to read loads of. Next up, the phrase that rang out to me from Nathan's monologue, although it took a little while, was...
That one love from long ago.
I have been talking about wanting to head to, well, looking at the reader that I am now, the reader that I have been, in the direction I want my reading to go. And one thing I realised is there are some favourite authors that I've not headed to for ages, and so I just thought that would be perfect for that one love from long ago. And the author that instantly came to my mind was Daphne du Maurier. I have not read one of her books in ages, but she is one of my absolute favourite authors. There were other authors like Ian McEwan used to be one of my favourites. I mean, I've had a bit more of a wobbly relationship with him in the last few decades. Wow, I'm so old. I didn't focus on the oldness mentioned in the monologue. We'll all move swiftly on from that. But I haven't read anything by him for ages, so I'd quite like to maybe head to something of his. I was thinking like Rose Tremaine. I would really like to head to one of the big chunksters. Admittedly, I reread The Road Home, but I don't feel like that counts. Does it count? Does it not count? There are many authors who I've not headed to for a while that I'd like to. I thought this would be a particular treat because I've read pretty much all of the short stories in this collection. Is 13 Chilling Tales for the Dark Hours, but what better time to read them? Also, I just think this edition is so supernaturally scrumptious, it's untrue. If not, I've got a few of her novels that I've not got to that I would like to get to. So yeah, we have the wonderful Daphne du Maurier. Also, on that note, just going backwards a little bit, I haven't read Ottessa Moshfegh for ages, so that is one that I can count with those, and I haven't read Linda Grant for ages, so that all features as part of that, or that already works into heading back to authors I've loved, not necessarily long ago, but a while back and haven't got to. The next thing took a little while again to ring out to me, but
Sweet Smells of Maple Leaves.
I suddenly thought was so perfect because maple leaves make me think of Canada, and Canada is a land of lumberjacks and woodlands, and indeed bears, and Maria Engel is Canadian, so I was like, right, this is super duper perfect. But also teaming with one of my favourite authors that admittedly I have read a massive stonking collection of their poems, but haven't read any fiction of theirs for a while, and certainly not any non-fiction, is Margaret Atwood, who is the Queen of Canada, frankly. And this is her memoir of sorts. It's called Book of Lives. This is the brief edition. Pages of absolute delightful joy. I mean, that's giving, oh, we'll come to that prompt in a minute. Is it giving it? It's a bit bright. Moving on.
If I start dwelling on colours for too long.
I am really, really keen to get to this. I think Margaret Atwood is a wondrous woman, and to read her life story through her memoir of sorts, I just think is going to be an absolute treat. Some other Canadian authors I would like to head back to are Heather O'Neill. This is The Capital of Dreams, which my lovely Patreon miser very kindly sent me from Canada, because boy oh boy is it hard to get some Canadian books if they don't come out in American editions. If any of you know of any Canadian bookshops that import to the UK, please let me know, because I'm desperate to get my mitts on Valentine in Montreal, which is Heather's latest novel with illustrations by her daughter. Anyway, this is described as a bit of a bonkers fairy tale, and is one that, yeah, I've wanted to get to for a while. I also have When We Lost Our Heads by Heather too. So yeah, these two. Could I read 2 books by the same author in one season? I mean, that would almost be outrageous for me. I haven't done that for ages, but yeah, very, very excited to get to more of Heather's work. I have all of them, bar Valentine, on the shelves. I read The Lonely Hearts Hotel when it was up for the Women's Prize, and absolutely loved it. And I just love her. She was one of the, what do they call them? Not pundits. Well, we'll come to Canada Reads briefly, but she was on Canada Reads and she was fantastic. I think one of her books is also in Canada Reads. Anyway, moving on from Heather, before it sounds like I'm obsessed, but I am mildly. We have Claudia Day's Daughter, which is Claudia's latest book. How gorgeous is that cover? I can get absolutely transfixed by these for ages. I loved Heartbreaker, which was Claudia's second book. I wanted to say novel, but I think her first, which I also have somewhere, Stunt, is short stories. Let me double check that, I might be wrong, and haven't got to it in the 2 or so years that I've had it.
When did this come out? That's just, yeah, I've had this on my shelves for 2 years, and
shameful, because yeah, I absolutely loved Heartbreaker. It even had a part of the book narrated by an animal, which I usually hate, but I absolutely blinking loved. So yes, I want to read this. And then we have Billy Ray Belcourt's short story collection, Coexistence. I have read his novel and his non-fiction and absolutely loved it. I really want to make sure that whilst I'm reading Canadian books, I'm making sure that I read Indigenous voices. I think that's really, really important. I also have Split Tooth on the shelves, which loads of people have raved about, which is meant to be an incredible novel about Indigenous people in Canada. So that's one that I want to head to. Now, when I was thinking about Canadian books, I instantly thought of the Giller Prize, which has recently announced its long list.
As I mentioned, it's really hard to get those books over here, so I'm going to see if any of you recommend any bookshops that might import, because then maybe I'll pick up the shortlist.
Also, the Carol Shields Prize is coming. I think that's in the spring though, or maybe winter.
I think spring is January. I sort of think winter doesn't exist except for Christmas. Autumn's literally until Christmas Eve, then it's winter until January the 1st, then it's spring. But then this is the man who used to say, as I've said, August the 1st was autumn. We'll move on.
One of the books that I did see on the long list, I have the sort of prequel to on my shelves, and I have been meaning to read this author for ages, and that's Mona Awad, and this is Bunny, which people have described as a really, really messed up, spooky, possibly witchy vibed Mean Girls, and is one that I have meant to read for ages. Going back to Canada Reads, which I will link the YouTube channel below for this, because if you haven't watched it, you can go back and watch several years. In fact, there's a couple of years I still haven't watched that I want to get to, but it's an incredible TV show. In fact, I would say it's now my favourite bookish TV show. I mean, there's hardly any left, are there? And yeah, let's not dwell on that. But there are a panel of well-known Canadian personalities, basically, and each one is championing a book. And each episode is basically made up of them doing a debate battle, each championing their book, and then they have to vote a book out until there is one book left. Now, I'm not going to tell you which of these have won. They were all shortlisted for Canada Reads, and I have been collecting them for ages, and this isn't even all of them. These are the ones that I could just get to fairly easily. But just to whiz through, we have The Future by Catherine Leroux, translated from the French by Susan Audio, and this was championed by the aforementioned Heather O'Neill. Then we have Scarborough by Catherine Hernandez, who I feel like is going to become a favourite author of mine. She has some other books that I've not been able to get my mitts on yet that sound really, really up my street, so very excited for this one. Then we have The Woo Woo by Lindsay Wong, which is non-fiction. Sorry, I should have said these two are novels. This one is dystopic, and this one is looking at Scarborough, an area in Canada. And then we have, as I was saying, The Woo Woo by Lindsay Wong, and it's How I Survived Ice Hockey, Drug Raids, Demons, and My Crazy Chinese Family. I think this is going to be brilliant. We also have Small Game Hunting at the local Coward Gun Club. I will say, deers make me think of lumberjacks a little bit, or is it just because they're the prey of bears? I'm not sure. By Megan Gale Coles. I think this is a small town novel where a community gets sort of cut off because of a blizzard. So yeah, really, really keen to get to that one. All sorts happens. And then we also have Five Little Indians by Michel Good, which Mum has already read because I ended up randomly getting 2 copies of this in the same charity shop. And so I gave her a copy, and I think she really liked it from what I remember. Oh, that's giving, yes, that's coming up to something else, which I've just realised I've completely forgotten to put aside a selection of books
that I meant to. But we'll be coming to those because
from Maple Leaves in Canada, we head to...
I should wear burgundy more often.
And burgundy is not a colour that I wear very often. I would not describe this as burgundy, this is more terracotta. There were a few books on my shelves that scream burgundy, as well as there being the burgundy in The Moon on Five Little Indians, the burgundy here in The God of Endings, and I'd say that that's a burgundy shade. Maybe it's more of a bright red, but also Margaret Atwood. That's giving burgundy in a way, isn't it? So they're all interlinking, and I think where books cross into more than one sort of theme, I guess, they're probably going to be the ones that I had to, because I'm going to have to whittle this down, and I haven't even finished yet. Some burgundy books that I had on my shelves that I've been meaning to get to for ages are Oxblood by Tom Benn, which is set in Manchester in the 1980s. And this is meant to be a really twisty family saga involving potentially the ghost of a murdered lover. Intrigued, ghostly, that's giving Halloween vibes. And then we have Hawk Mountain, another book I've had on my shelves for ages by Connor Habib. And this is, well, basically a really sinister stalkery tale. And it's giving autumn, that cover, I think. So I've got that one. And also, although I'm probably going to save this for December, as I'm planning on having a Booktube break for the whole of December, although I will be doing Vlogmas on Patreon, where if you want to get in on the vlogs, I'm doing them weekly there on the weekly Savage Shenanigans tier, so that's always linked down below. But while I'm off in December, my plan is to head to books in series that I haven't read yet. One such book is The Map of Bones by Kate Moss, which is burgundy-tastic. Look at the spreads on that. It's absolutely beautiful. And this is the 4th in the Joubert family chronicles. And I've not got to it yet. I meant to for ages, but that to me seems a period of time, because it's really hard to talk about sequels in wrap-ups and stuff. So I think December could be that perfect time to also just like head to some crime, which is also actually a love from long ago. I used to read a lot of crime, and I haven't done for quite some time. Edith Wharton, she's just come to me. I haven't read her for quite a while, and I would like to over the autumn months. So there we have those, and then on to...
Hold on, let me move those all out of the way. There's going to be some fast forward speedy back on my desk going on here, left, right and centre. Let's scoot these over here.
And then one part of Nathan's monologue that I think was slightly guided by me. Well, I can't say it definitely was, but I did send her a message saying, oh, by the way, I bought this book today, which made me think about autumn reads, and if you can fit this in somehow, that would be fantastic. It's Dead End Memories by Banana Yoshimoto, which...
Even the crisp leaves rattle off like golden currency no one uses anymore.
those gold leaves, I mean, that is just mesmerising for one, but also I think that is one of the most autumnal covers. Also, it's giving... Also, there's a woodland element to it. And actually, with that gold sort of leafy thing going on, oh, delicious. I really, really want to get to this. Mum and I both bought a copy of this when we were in Gulp Fiction in Oxford not long ago, so must read that. Now, we've gone through a whole heap of books there, and you think, Simon, that is enough, but I have some asks for you. Before that, though, one thing that I would say that I would really, really like with all the books that I read over autumn, because it is sweater weather, is
Layers.
I'm hoping that is what this selection of books has about it. Now, I said I wanted some help from you because some of you might have been thinking, Simon, Nathan mentioned...
Nora Ephron banter.
Why did you not mention Nora Ephron? Well, I've read Heartburn and I really, really loved it. I would love to know if there are any other of Nora Ephron's works that you think I should head to, and or any authors that you think are Nora Ephron-like. So that's one ask for you. Then I also wanted to ask you about...
That tchotchke.
So I had not heard of the word tchotchke before, and what was super duper weird was a couple of days after having received Nathan's video, I went book shopping and I was desperate to get Maggie or A Man and a Woman Walk Into a Bar by Katie Yee. I'm so excited about it. I bought it that day and then started it in bed that night, and on page 3, and I will insert a picture of the text that I sent to Nathan because I could not believe this happened. It said, by the register, there are all these little tchotchke gifts for people you don't know well. And so I thought, well, that perfectly suits tchotchke. And then I also thought about, and funny enough, in a very similar green, the Museum of Lost and Fragile Things, A Year of Salvage by Susan Joynson, which I've meant to read for ages. This is a memoir, but I don't know if that's quite what a tchotchke is. But I'd also love to know if you can think of any books that instantly give you tchotchke vibes, because I just want to be able to say that word a lot. Tchotchke, tchotchke, tchotchke. So we have that. Finally, before I just mention some books that I've got to read anyway for autumn, I have a very random admission to make, and that is to do with...
Reruns of Gilmore Girls.
I have never watched the Gilmore Girls in my life. Should I? Is the first question. Do you think I would like it? Is this the season to do it? And if so, this is a very random possible project. Should I make content about me watching the series as I go, and possibly going on some deviations of reading some of the books mentioned, because I believe there are quite a few books mentioned in it, because one of the characters in particular is very, very booky. So I'd love to know that in the comments below. Right, on to, last but not least, some books that I have to read for events where I'll be
Loitering in the bookshop.
or at festivals, or indeed actually on a reading retreat that I'm going to be running that I'll be linking down below. I'll tell you more about that shortly. But events, basically. I have some events coming up in the autumn, and I'm going to be reading, reading 3 books for them and rereading 1 book for one of them. The first event that I've got in the autumn is on the 10th of October, where I'll be talking to Sarah Hall about Helm at the wonderful West Kirby Bookshop. This has been one of my most anticipated books of 2025. I was lucky enough to talk to Sarah about it at a Faber fiction showcase in Manchester last year that I hosted for them, and she didn't have any copies of the book yet because it wasn't quite finished, but she gave the synopsis, and I was just like, I've got to read this book. It's basically about the history of the Northwest told by a wind called Helm. Sounds amazing. Then on the 17th of October, I'll be at Wimbledon Book Festival talking to Rita Chakrabarti about Finding Belle. Sorry, I should have got my finished copy off the shelves. These are on my book trolley. This is a gothic novel that apparently has riffs of Jane Eyre to it, which I'm super duper excited for. And also, along with Rita, I'll be talking to Garrett Carr about The Boy from the Sea, which is another book that some of my patrons have absolutely raved about and I've not got to yet. So intrigued to be talking to both of these authors. And then, as I mentioned, I am hosting a reading retreat in mid Wales. Very excited about it. I will link it down below. It is a weekend of reading, bookshop wandering, eating delightful food, just having the loveliest time. And we're going to be having one of the authors of one of my favourite books of this year in attendance, which I'm going to reread the book for because we're going to be in conversation as part of that weekend, and that is Anthony Shapland. And I feel like I don't need to give this book an introduction because I have banged on about this book so much. But A Room by the Shop is just a wonderful tale of two men who secretly fall in love in rural Wales during the 1980s, and it is a brilliant, beautifully brutal book. So there we go. That is my autumn reading plans. Well, rough autumn reading plans. I do need to whittle these books down. So if there's any books that you would particularly like me to read, let me know those in the comments below. If there are any of these books that you've read and didn't like, please don't tell me that now. I'm super duper excited about them. I've got the bookish buzz, all the autumn feels. Let's not let that delight be burst. But you can tell me that you hated them once I've read them. But I would also love to know anything that you'd like to see on the channel, as well as recommendations for any of the aforementioned things. Nora Ephron-like books, or other Nora Ephron works I should read. Should I watch the Gilmore Girls? Tchotchke recommendations, all that good stuff. Leave those in the comments below. I'll be back with another video soon. As I mentioned, if you would like more content in the meantime, I am vlogging and more over on Patreon, which is linked down below. There's also my Instagram, my Blue Sky. On the note of Instagram, Cole and I are doing a shortlist predictions live on Instagram tomorrow at 6 p.m. BST. When does BST end? Let's not do that. I'm going to go into a big whirlwind of clocks changing and move on. All those things are linked down below. Let's keep the conversation going on in the comments down below, and hope you're reading something lovely. And as I said, I will see you in another video very soon, or soonish. Bye.
Love ya.